Good evening, everyone. You welcome to the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. This day, in our top stories, the pioneer public independence conciliator for the Northwest region, Tamfu Simon Fai, has taken oath into office. He took the oath today at the Northwest Regional Court of Appeal. He has been urged to adopt the open door policy and work with everyone to cool down tension in the restive Northwest region. Also, thousands or hundreds of residents in the Ozawan and Mesa Mendongo neighborhoods in Yaoundé have expressed worries over the demolition of their houses and business premises by agents of the Yaoundé City Council. They are calling on the intervention on the Prime Minister head of government. They note that the matter is in court. Get more in this newscast. Good evening once again. You welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. First, the pioneer public independence conciliator for the Northwest region, Tamfu Simon Fai, has been installed or has taken oath into office at the Northwest Regional Court of Appeal. Today, he has been called upon to adopt the open door policy, work with everyone in resolving the conflicts in the Northwest region. The ceremony at the Court of Appeal in the Northwest holding at Bamenda was before their lordships Sonkem Ngale, Vice President, Nchu Julius Chio, Vice President, Njukeng George, Vice President, with Solange Kende as Registrar in attendance. Tamfu Simon Fai took the oath before the people of Cameroon to serve as independent public conciliator for the Northwest region. His mandate as independent conciliator ends in 2027, according to Section 368 of Law Number 2019/024 of 24th December 2019. Take a listen to Tamfu Simon Fai as he was taken oath into office today.
I, Tamfu Simon Fai, do solemnly swear that I will loyally and faithfully execute with probity, impartiality, and independence the duties of public independent conciliator entrusted to me, that I will uphold professional secrecy, and that I will fulfill in everything I do the obligations they impose on me.
Tamfu Simon Fai was instructed by the presiding magistrates to adopt an open door policy and work with everyone to resolve the conflicts in the region. The presiding magistrates equally knows that he is competent and hopes he will put an end to the crisis or quench down the tension. Take a listen to the presiding magistrates in this excerpt.
Perform on the job in the peacemaking process. The law itself has foreseen conflicts, and that is why you have been appointed. Judging from your CV, you already have all that it takes to embark on this job. You have been heading departments, and I want to believe in those departments at SNH, it has not been all rosy. There have been times probably of differences that was brought to your attention, and you handled them. So you have a background to rely on. And you have the humility I see in you now before us as a weapon as well to help you succeed. So God bless you.
A major challenge awaiting Tamfu Simon Fai is the transformation of the extensive wealth in the areas of oil and gas into conflict resolution in the restive Northwest region. Take a listen to him as he stresses how he's going to go about it. He first begins by talking on how he's going to be independent in executing his duties.
The text says it. I'm going to do my work independently in the sense that I have no instructions to take from anybody. I don't give instructions to people. I don't take instructions from people. I think but I take advice and listen, and then we can solve these problems amicably, because the court systems are very expensive and our people are very poor. So we want to solve our problems amicably. Well, within the industry of oil and gas, you work with people as well as you work with machines. We have been working with people, and I think that I've come to learn from the people also. So together, I think we can make it happen. First, before we resolve any conflict, which is the main thing to do, we need peace. And I want to call on my citizens, my people in the Northwest, to adopt peace so that we can work together and resolve our problems, which we will always have.
On to something else, hundreds of residents in the Odzawan and Mesamendongo neighborhoods in Yaoundé, central region of the country, have expressed worries over the demolition of their houses and business premises by agents of the Yaoundé City Council. They say the matter is in course, while they are equally hoping on the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, to intervene. Details with Mala Glory.
Inhabitants of neighborhood of Ojawan and Mesamendongo in the capital city of Yaoundé expressed discontentment to the demolition of residents by the city mayor along the main road mostly used by the presidential convoy. The population of Mesamendongo since September 2020 have been facing series of demolition, and there is a presidential order which states that it should be 30 meters from the main road, but here we are at a distance of 60 meters. Accusations from the inhabitants instigates the Equinoxe team to carry out an investigation on the field. In effect, while some businesses and residents located 30 meters from the road were demolished, others, like this particular building owned by a councillor from the city council, was not destroyed. On different placards, the people expressed their frustration, which the quarter head of Mesamendongo on his part described as obstinate resistance. I don't understand this kind of harassment with the mayor. These lands possess land titles since 1995, and we have not been indemnified till date. According to the population, the city mayor is not ready to put an end to this initiative, though the matter has been taken to court. The matter is in court. Meanwhile, the mayor continues with his demolition. I don't know if land titles still have their place. Declaring that their rights have been violated, the population then called on the Prime Minister, Chief Joseph John Gute, to come to their rescue.
J'ai pris Sa Majesté John Gute.
I plead with His Majesty John Gute, the Prime Minister, to see the level at which his colleague has lost his dignity, respect and authority. I humbly implore you to intervene for us, the common man. The hopes of the population is therefore in the hands of an expert who can help reveal the truth.
Je suis en train d'interpeller les élus du peuple, honorables députés, sénateurs.
I call on the government authorities and experts of the domain to come to our aid, intervene for the sake of the common man. However, at the level of the Yaoundé City Council, our efforts to get them react were fruitless.
Still in the central region of the country, inhabitants of Nkumu, that's in Yaoundé, have blocked the entrance into one of the transformation units of the Mamvele Hydroelectric Dam. They are demanding the payments of indemnities promised them 5 years ago by the construction company. Formi Armstrong Sander has more.
For accepting to give their pieces of land for this giant project, these inhabitants of Nkunkumu in the Yaoundé 7 subdivision were promised indemnities. 5 years after, and with the project near completion, not even a dime has been given to the local population, leaving them in total frustration. It was in a bid to make their voices heard that the angry population of Nkunkumu in Yaoundé blocked the entrance to the company.
Depuis 5 ans aujourd'hui,
with placards bearing different messages, the people say 5 years waiting is too much. They say the company has betrayed their trust.
nous avons cédé nos terres.
We gave them our land for the project 5 years ago. We trusted and allowed them to start work, even without payment, hoping that they will pay 5 years later, but nothing has been done.
Nous avons pris notre mal en patience depuis 5 ans.
They are even more frustrated by the treatments received from some top officials of the company vis-à-vis their worries. When we go to their offices, they chase us away like dogs. Where do I go with my family? Whereas on December the 8th, 2020, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Goody signed a decree allocating over 218 million francs CFA as compensation to some 15 persons affected by expropriation.
Mon domicile, j'avais les safoutiers.
The same document went further to state that funds meant for these indemnities have been included in the budget of the Mamvele Hydroelectric Dam project. Our effort to get the company answer questions in this regard failed. The project here at Nkunkumu in the Yaoundé 7 subdivision concerns the construction of a transformation unit for the Mamvele Hydroelectric Dam project. It is, however, not the first protest regarding the late or non-payment of indemnities linked to the Mamvele Hydroelectric Dam project.
Several years after the enthronement of Bate Epe Roberts Oben as a new third-class chief of Faitok village in the Upper Banyang subdivision, that's in the southwest region of Cameroon, son of the late chief who died in the year 2000 with the chieftaincy vacant for 16 years due to a dispute, still refuses to recognize Chief Bate Epe Roberts. He says local administrative authorities have treated him by ignoring the stop enthronement order by the Ministry of Territorial Administration, his coronation by the Traditional Council, and giving his father's seats to another person. The opposing faction pleads on the Ministry of Territorial Administration to shed more light on this. Details in the following report. 16 years, a chieftaincy dispute has been raging in Faitok 1 village in the Upper Banyang subdivision, Manu division of the southwest region. This was after the death of the then third-class chief, Adolphe Ayuk Eyong, on April 1st, 2000.
We had a dispute for 16 years, and in 2016, the matter was cleared. So if there's anybody still moving around saying that there's a dispute in Faitok, it is not true. By the chieftaincy law, an administrative authority comes to the village and the would-be chief, the designated chief, is presented to him in front of the whole village by the kingmakers. And that is how it was done.
Former mayor Bate Epe Roberts Oben says in an election between 3 candidates in front of Ellis, traditional heads, the divisional officer and other administrative authorities, he was elected the next third-class chief and enthroned.
In the case of the third-class chiefdom, like in my village, is the additional officer of Upper Banyang who presided and forwarded his report to the SD of Manu, who finally drew up an arrêté designated me chief of the village, and that is how it is done in compliance with the law.
This is rejected by the for Ayuk Eyong Tomi faction, who say they do not recognize but the Epe Robert Oben as chief from Fighter One village, describing his enthronement by administrative authorities as shameful and shocking.
It is so shocking and so very shameful to see that after the traditional council had decided and selected their chief, enthroned and presented the administration still goes around turning left and right, going ahead until when another prefectorial order was given, cancelled. This is embarrassing because by law, after the cancellation of a prefectorial order, that candidate is not supposed to come back to the list. Now, who is to be the traditional enthroned chief or the administrative enthroned chief?
But the Epe Robert Oben tries to rectify this opposition statement.
We were three of us who were contenders to the throne. There was a certain Sisi Kwayoyong Bakia. There is a certain Jacob Fondi, who is now of late, and then me, but Epe Robert Oben. And during the consultative talks, since we had not agreed on one candidate, on one person, so three persons were presented to the administrative authority, and the kingmakers did some sort of voting. You know, people queue up behind whom they thought should be chief, and that is how it was settled. I had 3 votes, and the other persons have 2-2, because there are 7 kingmakers in our village. Thereafter, the administrative officer made his report to the SEO, and the SEO, on the basis of that, dropped their retain.
He asked that the election was transparent and observed by a representative of the governor of the Southwest region.
All the consultative talk reports were cancelled 5 times, because every time there was a consultative talk and there was a report, somebody ran either to Yaoundé or to somewhere and got it cancelled. And now, to put an end to it, the governor of the Southwest region took extra trouble to dispatch a representative to act as an observer, and I'm sure that is why the matter was settled, because I'm sure that observer reported to the governor what he saw.
While some allies advance in fight talk has a rotatory chiefdom, the opposing camp rejects this and says the Ministry of Territorial Administration is not in accordance with the enthronement of Bate Epe Robert.
Even after its installation, the ministry knows that the installation was wrongly done because there was a petition before the installation. Because after the prefectorial order, there was a petition in the ministry pointing out that this thing was wrongly done. And even after the installation, the administration continues to write to the administration, to the SDO and the DO of Tinto, asking them to give them facts pertaining as to the rotation of that chiefdom. This chiefdom has never been rotatory. From the Jama area to date, it has been from father to son. Where had this rotation come from? And no one is prepared to prove that it is rotating, and no evidence is provided.
While the installed chief Bate Epe Robert Oben reiterates the chieftaincy squabble was resolved long ago, for Ayuk Eyong Tomi and his supporters pleads on the Ministry of Territorial Administration to revise the Mfaitok chieftaincy procedures and the enthronement of Bate Epe Robert Oben by the administration in Upper Banyang in the Manyu Division, Southwest region. Health experts are warning against the rise in the number of COVID-19 cases in the African continent. While the COVID-19 vaccine stagnates in Africa, Africans have been advised to get vaccinated in order to avoid being hit hard by the pandemic, like the case in India, where thousands of persons die on a daily basis. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
According to the World Health Organization, only 15 million people across Africa have been vaccinated against COVID-19. This is happening at a time when the new Delta variant is rapidly spreading. Health experts warn that delays in getting vaccinated has resulted to several deaths. countries hardest hit by the new variant in Africa are South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Namibia, and Rwanda. According to the African Center for Disease Control, the number of COVID-19 related deaths have increased by 19% in the past months. Health experts warn that patients in Africa are far more likely to die than in other parts of the world because of limited health care resources. The recent increase in cases has been blamed on a combination of factors, including the non-respect of public health measures. The World Health Organization plans boosting innovative technological support to laboratories in order to better monitor the evolution of the new variant in Africa.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Up next, Talking Point. Good evening once again. You're welcome to Talking Point. We're having as guest Ba Equinoxe. She is a political activist. Good evening, Madam Ba Equinoxe.
Good evening to you, Mr. Equinoxe. Good evening to all Cameroonians out there. Good evening to all the televiewers of this prestigious TV station, Equinoxe TV. Good evening to all the Cameroonians who are in the diaspora. I really wanted to send a special greetings to all the Cameroonians who are in Santa. You know, the people of Santa have been suffering due to the impracticable state of the roads. Yes, that of the Baminda Babaju road, that was really a nightmare to many Cameroonians who are living there. So, but the only question is, you know, due to the death of, you know, the Prime Minister, Simon Achijetu, yes, who reigned from 1992 to 1996, you know, things have gone well in Baminda. We have seen some innovations. The roads are now well. So, I really wonder the kind of government we are having, because, you know, this government is really the kind of government that gives value to, you know, inanimate objects, you know. Like, you know, those people in Bamenda have been complaining of the inability for them to walk on this road easily. But you see that this road were being arranged because of the death of Simon Achijetu, because he's someone that had branded name. He's someone that was branded. You know, the people of Bamenda are nobody. They are just nobody. So their plight do not, you know, sound anything to the ears of the government. So we see that because of the death of the Simon Achijetu, the road were being arranged so they could benefit from somebody who had a name, since we are the no-name people. So it's very shameful to see that we give value to dead people than living people, to the detriment of a whole people. It is very pathetic.
If I understand you, you want to say the people of the Northwest region should be praying maybe for we shouldn't actually pray for the death of maybe important personalities before works are done. But it seems as if we have to be praying, the people of the Northwest region have to be praying for important personalities to die before something is done, before their plights are being listened to.
Well, Mr. Innocent Aze, we do not pray people die, but with the way the government is handling issues, we might pray.
That impression.
Yes, it gives us that impression that it is because someone dies, someone who is from the regime, someone who is branded, that things can be done. People have been complaining, and let me tell you, Mr. Innocent Aze, I spoke with one CPDM communicant. He told me that the road of Baminda Babaju was being stopped because of the armed men there. Now the question is, this road was being renovated, things were being done there because of the death of Simon Achijetu. These armed men are still there. How were the works being carried out when these guys were still there? It's really an irony, and I feel that we are living in a country where the voiceless have no voice and their plights cannot be reached.
Well, we continue praying for something to be done, I think.
Well, the only thing I can say to this regime is that nothing lasts forever. Even the most expensive good, the most durable good, as we call iron, still has an expiring date. They cut Cameroon to their own taste. They divide it to their own taste. They do anything they want. But let me tell you, they cannot hold Cameroon captive for the whole of their lives. One day Cameroon will be free like other African countries like Ghana. So I think that will be free one day. They should not think that because they do things the way they want, they shape Cameroon to their own shape. They cut it to their own taste. They think that Cameroonians are dull. We are not dull. There is a day that Cameroonians will rise up and liberate themselves. That is what I'm saying to the Yaoundé regime. They should hear this.
Okay, so you speak. Then let's move to something else, but we remain in the Northwest region. You will certainly heard about the killing of another civilian, though he has been brandished as someone who has links with separatists in the Northwest region as well as in the diaspora. He's been engaged in some dubious activities, threats, also kidnappings and so on. But when he was killed at below Foncha neighborhoods, how did you receive this news? Did you actually believe that there were military men as well who committed the act and that he was innocent?
It is not something to be surprised with the way the government handles things. You know, when something is done, the way the communique is from the government, it really shows that they are trying to hide something. This young man, as we all heard from ground, they said he was a businessman. Jibril, he was a businessman from all indications. But when we listen to what the head of communication at the Ministry of Defense said, he said that this guy was, you know, he incited secessionists in the Northwest region. He was like a middleman to the diasporas who are there to separate Cameroon. Now the question is, he has been, you know, sentenced since 2020. He was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. Yes. But this guy has been walking free in Bamenda. Does it mean that the law in Cameroon could not be able to handle this guy? He walked freely. He walked freely. He wasn't like, you know, he was wanted, even though the communique from the Ministry of Defense said he was a wanted person. Yes. He has been wanted for over getting to a year now. Was he on the run? No. Was he hiding? No. He was moving freely in Bamenda. But now we hear that he was this and that and that. That's the same case we had with Samuel Waziti. They called him, they took him from his job because he was a journalist based in Boya. They took him, brought him to Yaoundé, 10 months incommunicado detention. Till date, they are telling us history. It is very normal. They will always want to protect themselves. They always want to protect themselves. Look at the Ngabu massacre. Look at what happened in Nebam. Look at what happened in other regions. All these things were being maneuvered by the military, but till date, when they come out and do their own communiques, they favor themselves. They do not put into consideration the violation of human rights in Bamenda and in the north and in the southwest region. This guy, this Jibril that was being killed publicly, he could be taken and allowed the law court to pass judgment. You cannot tell me that you're preaching by example, because Mr. Innocent Azay, when I grew up, when you used to see a military man or a policeman, you felt that peak of security in you. Yes. But today when you see those guys, you say, oh God, these guys are out for destruction. Does it really mean that
they see the military, they even escape?
They escape. Does it really mean that the military or the security forces we have in Cameroon are no longer there to protect the civilians? That's the question. They were trained to protect us and not kill us. But today when you see a military man, you escape, you run. There is that fear that takes you. Why? It means the military has failed. Even if the separatist fighters in the northwest region and in the southwest region are committing atrocities, must the military to fall into that game? No. They say you do not copy something wrong, you copy something that is good. So it is not from the military that we are supposed to be having this rampant killing, the violation of human rights. Those that are supposed to preach law, those that are supposed to preach to us by example. It is very pathetic, Mr. Innocent Azay, to see that things happen anyhow in the northwest and southwest region. Going
by that same communique of the director in charge of communication in the Ministry of Defense, he said Jibril panicked when he arrived at the checkpoint and he tried to escape, and the security forces were manning that checkpoint had to open fire. But though they did not actually target him or to kill him, the bullet fatally hit him. Then he died.
Mr. Innocent Azay, those are stories cooked up to me, because this guy knew that there is a checkpoint there. And if really he was on the run, or he knew that he was wanted, he wouldn't have gone there. He's a businessman in Bamenda. He has been living there for so long. Do you think that he doesn't know the way people function there? Do you think that he doesn't know where there is a checkpoint there? No. This guy knew very well that there is a military joint there, but he decided to pass there. Meaning that they say a free mind fears no guilt. If the military or the communication from the head of communication, I think is Cyril Sesh.
Yes, Atonfa.
Yes, he's the one in charge of the communication bench at the Ministry of Defense. He said that he has been doing that all the time. The government has always been doing that. They always, how do they call this, do cosmetic things to cover up their atrocities. If this guy was really wanted, I think that there is a law court. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, as we heard from their own communication.
Yeah.
Now they would have taken this guy, brought him to law court and sent him to prison. Rather than killing him, that's violation of human rights. And I think that the government should respect that before preaching that to the civilians. It's very painful to see that. We cannot live in a country where human rights are being respected.
You say it's very painful, but the Ministry of Defense has extended its heartfelt condolences to the family of Jibril.
It's funny, right? It's funny. You kill somebody, you call him a thief, you call him a separatist fighter, you call him, and I even heard that they said he was part of those that kidnap people and ask for ransom.
Yeah.
Wow, this man was a thief. Then you send a condolence to their family. Funny. That's the same thing they said about Samuel Wazizi. They said Samuel Wazizi died in the company of his family. No. Till date, we do not know where the corpse of Samuel Wazizi is. We do not know what happened to him. They said he died at the Yaoundé Central Hospital, which is all lies. And I think that this government needs to start doing things right. It is very funny that the Yaoundé regime do not care about how we feel. Because when the gaunt this young man, Jibril, at Foncha Street, you know, the youths there went and burned down that place. Do you think that those youths are mad? No. We need not to take laws into our hands. If the government thought that this guy was a separatist fighter, or he was a middleman between the diasporas and the Cameroonian separatist fighters, he should have been brought to the law court and sent to prison like others, rather than gunning him down. He cannot pass a whole military people. There were many of them, right?
There were many.
Was he armed? He wasn't holding a gun. He wasn't holding a gun like the military men. They would have taken him, handcuffed him, and sent him to prison. Simple.
Are you doubting now the investigation of the Ministry of Defense, of MINDEF, regarding the killing of Jibril? Because other persons advanced that there should be an independent international investigation. But they decided to carry out their investigation. Are you doubting it?
Well, Mr. Inosenaze, it is very normal for me to doubt. You know why? Because when the Gabu massacre took place, the military and their communication still came out and said we did nothing. But later we found out that it was them that killed these burnt out houses and committed atrocity in Gabu. Today they tell us that no, this guy was a thief, he was a separatist fighter and all that. Why should I believe them when we have an inconsistent communication from the government all the time? So I don't think I can trust that. That's the truth.
Okay, now let's talk something else. About Cameroonians who mobilized recently in the diaspora, notably in Paris, to protest against poor governance. The regime in Yaoundé has not been able to govern the country or pilot the country to the right direction. Did they actually did the right thing by protesting, brandishing the national colors, and some calling for the resignation of the regime?
Well, Mr. Inosenaze, protesting without
Are they not
arms,
just desperate?
They are not desperate. I condemn the word desperate. They are not desperate. They are fighting for the uprightness of Cameroon. Though some of them might use some kind of emotions and all that. But I think that peaceful protest is not against any law in Cameroon. If they decided to go out and state their plights, you understand? They went to Paris, they came out there, the diasporans living there, and they told us that in the United States or in France, you cannot, hold somebody from protesting. There is democracy. You are free to say what you feel, how you feel, and when you want to say that. So I think that this protest was peaceful. And perhaps I cannot really, put that on a balance, because most of them, they came out because they are the Bayabas. They are the Kamto people from the CRM. They said they want to fight against the Biya regime who stole the elections of their president, Kamto, 2018, that he won as a president of Cameroon. Well, I cannot say anything about that because I do not work at Elecam. And, what I can say on this topic is that peaceful protest is not against any law in Cameroon. And I think that if you want to protest, you should protest for a right cause. And I think that these guys that were in Paris, they came out, they stated their plight and all that. It is very normal for them to say what they think. They did not break anything like what happened in 2019 with Calibro and the others at the Belgium at the Cameroon embassy in Belgium. I think that this one was peaceful. Their plights were being stated. They told Cameroon the way they feel, the Cameroon government the way they feel. And I think that it is for the government to decide what to do.
And it's not
to
the
decide
first time.
to take what is right, actually.
It's not the first time they are protesting.
It's not the first time they have been protesting. The Bayabas have been protesting. They have been crying out. They have been doing, though they carry out some atrocities. I think that with the sentence of, Calibro and cohorts, with which they won't even go to prison, they will pay some fines. I think that they have learned their lessons that you can protest without causing atrocities. You cannot use, violence to state out a point. I think that dialogue and peaceful talks is the best thing for you to resolve any problem you have.
But the calling on the resignation of the regime, but the regime has always been there, assuring them to be united, to rally behind the presidents, the head of states, in order to pilot the developments of the country by 2035. That's why I asked you the question: are they not just desperate? Why can't they unite behind the head of states? He always says it, that is, unites behind him for the development of Cameroon.
Well, Mr. Innocent Aze, I cannot say they are desperate because, everybody fights for his own cause. They have a cause which to fight for. I do not think they are desperate because those guys are in France. They live well. They are suffering nothing. They are fighting for the Cameroonians back home who are suffering. You should know that. So these guys are not actually desperate. The only problem is if they decided to say the BR regime to resign and all that because they stole the election from Kamto, it is their own right. That's what they think. We have democracy, freedom of expression. You can say what you want. You can say how you feel. But I think that any election or any president can go to power through an election. So if they think that Kamto's victory was being stolen from them by BR regime, they should wait. 2015 is another period for them to showcase their talents, for them to showcase their capacity, for them to showcase their love for the government. Actually, they can start by asking people to go and register to the electoral courts, because very soon this year will come to an end. I think that's the first thing we should take, because the more you ask people to go and register for them to vote when the time comes, it's very important, because you cannot keep preaching on people who do not even have voters card. It is very important. We see so many people, like what happened in 2018 with the rampant, what happened with Cabral Libi. Actually, we saw a whole lot of crowd rallying behind him, praising him, but these guys didn't have an electoral card. They were not eligible to go and proclaim what they feel.
Yeah.
So it is very important for these people who are living in the diaspora to start asking Cameroonians to go and register, so that when the time comes, because we never know, an opportunity can break out and they say, okay, we are going for another election.
Yeah.
Yes, nothing can be defined. We are mere humans. We do not know tomorrow. So I think that that's the best step to take, rather than going on violence and all that. You can talk from now to tomorrow in the Yaoundé regime. They will listen not. These people have given a deaf ear to our cry. They do not care about us. The only thing is you must, try to, look for ways for you to bring them down. And I think that, Mr. Innocent Aze, without taking too much time, the BR regime in Yaoundé never wants the opposition powers to come to unity. That's the way they fight. And if these people in the diaspora know that, they won't fighting, because we go on social media, we see how people fight, insult themselves, political parties fighting each other. Do you think that it is true this way?
So the regime is using this unity.
Yes, they use the divide and rule method. Do you think that it is true insulting X or Y that you're going to climb to that power? No. The first thing is for you, the opposition power, to come to unity and fight that Goliath who is sitting on that chair. That's the most important thing for me right now.
Okay, before we end the talking points, let's dive into something else. There's the high level, or there's a rise in immorality in our society today. I want to focus more on the publication of nude videos on social media platforms, whether WhatsApp, Facebook, and so on today. I don't like the case of some gendarmes who filmed some women and men in a residence in Bonamoussadi and published. How can you qualify that?
Well, Mr. Innocent Aze, I'll start by saying that, when we have people that are meant to protect security, that are meant to preach by example, they start going the wrong way. I think something is really wrong with this country, because we saw how some gendarmes filmed some youths. I can call them, they were adults, right? These adult youths, and posted their nude pictures, and these pictures went viral on social media. The first thing I can condemn is the fact that people that are meant to protect Cameroonians, that are meant to show to preach by example and instead showing the wrong way to the Cameroonian youth, it is very wrong. Now, the rising rate of immorality and nude pictures on social media has become something despicable in Cameroon. We saw that of Malika. We see that of a young woman. Recently, we saw how a young lady was being portrayed naked because she stole some merch in a store. You see, it is very, very, very painful to see that Cameroonians have lost that morality in them. That, how can I call it? That Bantu culture which we used to have. That respect of our body. Because let me tell you, especially a woman, her body is something we call dignity. If her body is being exposed vehemently like that on social media and everybody can see, there is something wrong. And we said that there is a law that talks about, cyber criminality and cyber crimes and all that, but still we see how nothing is happening. People do what they want on social media, nothing is happening. And we heard that those guys, the military men that carried out, those gendarmes actually that carried out that act, they were being put to book. But do you think that something positive will come out of that? No. What I want to tell Cameroonians out there, especially the youths, they should be able, they should learn that your body is a temple of the Lord. You should know that firstly. And that immorality is not a shortcut to success. Because most Cameroonian youths think that once you become viral with a nude picture, you become a star. Like the little Malika, they said she wants to interview Eto'o. Must you interview Eto'o? No. You must not go the crook way for you to succeed. You must not expose your body for you to succeed. There is a decent way for you to succeed. And I think that the government needs to work hard on this. Yes, she needs to work hard on this. They need to work so that Cameroonians, especially the youth, will no longer fall into the hands of immorality, social media, and all the Europeans have brought to us in the name of development and civilization.
Well, Akwen Nazi, we're very sorry we have just limited time to talk on that subject matter, but I hope some other times we'll talk on it detailedly.
It was a pleasure, Mr. Innocent Azemi, being here today. I want to say thank you to all the workers of Equinoxe TV, because you guys are doing a great job. And I pray you guys do not compromise, because, out there is very difficult with all we face out there. But I think that once you do the right thing, people will praise you. And Cameroonians are looking up on you people for you to keep informing them on the right thing and not trying to dilute information. I thank you guys for the work you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
We thank people like you as well, political activists, civil society actors, for always being on our platform.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much once more, Akwe, Nazi, and to you viewers, thanks so much for being part of this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Do have a splendid day. Tomorrow is another day, God willing.